Morning, and thank you for joining me on another episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I am your host, Sharifa Hardy, and I have an amazing show for you today. I have interesting guests. I have wonderful topics. And you know what I'm going to ask you to do? I'm going to ask you to do what I always ask you to do, and that is to go ahead and share this show, because friends don't let friends miss out on the Roundtable Talk Show. And while you're sharing, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our first guest. Our first guest is Michaela Zannou. She is the CEO and co-founder of Bright App. Good morning, Narissa. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for joining us. Where are you in the world?
We're in San Francisco, California.
I usually don't ask that question, but today I kept hearing California, California, California. So I wanted to get an idea of where everyone is. Tell us about Bright App.
So we started as a software for trainers to better manage their business. And since COVID, we turned it into a marketplace. Thousands of people have been displaced by gym closures and they've lost their trainer. And then thousands of trainers are out of work. And so they have no way to get lead gen. And so we created a marketplace that connects the two.
Okay. So your Bright App is relatively new.
Yes, it is. And so it's designed to help the trainers become independent of physical gyms.
Okay, I want to talk about Bright App, but what made you see a need, see a problem, and turn that into a business?
Right. So I've been a trainer for nearly a decade now, and I've just seen the industry be super inefficient for a very long time. I've noticed that a small percentage of trainers are really, really organized because it's really hard to do. And so a lot of good trainers who didn't necessarily have the skills to be organized needed help. And so when I opened my own gym and ran the gym using multiple different softwares, I realized that with all the technology out there, none of it is there to support the trainer or the gym owner. It's really just designed to make money for the company, or it's designed for the client. And so trainers are left without proper support. And so that's what the need was. And so we built this to help the trainers and gym owners because they hold the client relationship. So many software out there is trying to replace us with AI, but you can't replace the human trainer. That shared human experience is very important.
No, that's interesting that you say that, because a lot of people may say, oh, well, you know what, I'll just go get the app. My app will tell me do 15 squats and then do 15 jumping jacks, or, whatever it is, 30, whatever the moves. So why the need for the training?
Why the need? Because if you want real change, right, you have to be accountable. You have to increase your intensity. When it's left to you on demand, you're going to always choose to do it later, right? So if it's like the Peloton's great, but you're just going to keep walking by and be like, tomorrow, I'll definitely do it, right? But if you pay someone by the hour, you're going to show up. And also it's awkward to not show up. So you're going to be there. And your trainer is going to be there to make sure you achieve measurable results. It's what they do. They love it. Good trainers love their job. And helping you evolve into a better version of yourself, especially a healthier version, is what we do. So
yeah, I knew you had an answer. I knew you was going to have that answer ready, or why we need a trainer. We were discussing this on another one of my shows, because I was discussing, I downloaded that water reminder app.
Yeah.
It goes off every hour or whatever it is. And all I did was just hit ignore. Right. So yes, I'm definitely someone who needs a trainer to keep me motivated. But, we have to ask the question, because the great debate that's going on right now is, the mask and, staying safe, and gyms have been affected more than anything. So what's the new experience with a trainer? What does that look like?
So it depends, right? There are clients who are happy to do a 6 feet training session outside at a beach or a park or in their garage or driveway. We've been seeing that increase, and also over Zoom. So people who are high risk are like, good trainers in person are just as good over Zoom. They're going to give you the proper direction, feedback. You can put your phone on a tripod, move it around. They can see different angles. So if you're someone who are going through rehabilitation or injuries, they're still able to assist the same way they would in person via Zoom. Technology is so good, right? Zoom has been around for 5 years, yet we're just now starting to use it the way it should be used. And so trainers are now figuring out that this works just as great.
You know what? Don't try to take my excuses away. Now, I have all the excuses in the world on why
Honey, I'll do it.
I was just saying on that other show, I need someone, like when I'm trying to lose weight, to come by and just slap the food out of my hand. Like, no, don't do it. Like, I need somebody who's really hard on me. I have more questions for you, but I definitely want to introduce our next guest, because we were discussing the Zoom, and her focus is with telehealth and helping us all. I want to introduce Dr. Lisa Pion-Berlin. Good morning, Dr. Lisa. How are you?
Good morning. It's Pion-Berlin, but don't worry. That's why everybody calls me Dr. Lisa. Nobody can say my last name.
I can't say any of it. It could be John Smith, and I find a way to just mess it up. I don't know why. That's my thing. How are you?
Good. Great. Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Of course. You are the president and CEO of Parents Anonymous.
Yes. So Parents Anonymous is the oldest family strengthening organization, started by a mom who was out of control, working with a social worker to come up with something that would work. For her, traditional therapy was not enough. That was 1969. And she came up with the idea of a support group, and we've been running support groups ever since. We do advocacy work, and in 1974, with the help of Congress, because we were the only game in town, we started a helpline for parents. We knew people needed to pick up the phone. They needed to say, this kid's driving me nuts. I don't know what I'm going to do here, et cetera, et cetera. But given all of our work, when COVID hit, we went to the governor of California, Governor Newsom, and said to him, all these parents are sheltered in with their kids of all ages. And what are we going to do to support them? So we consider ourselves to be first responders for parents, children, and youth, or anybody worried about anybody in California. So for our California number, we're open 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. But you can also text us. You can live chat us because you're in a room with a bunch of kids and you don't have privacy. And you can reach out to us in any language, including sign language, we can respond to. So we have a website, caparentyouthhelpline.org. Please tell your friends, your neighbors, etc. I just want to comment on my friend here, Nerissa, about looking at the underlying issues. Everybody's feeling the stress. Everybody's feeling the angst. Nobody is devoid of what this COVID is doing to us now. We don't really know what the future is. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And all that uncertainty is really wearing us. So exercising, meditating, or learning how to drop in your body to deal with your underlying emotional issues, which is something we do in Parents Anonymous groups, and we also do on the phone with people. People call us frantic about things. Trying to sort out their feelings, even in a 45-minute phone call, is really important for starting the journey of empowering yourself for change. Because understanding why you won't exercise because you're afraid of all these things, or you're just ignoring the water app or whatever, is really important to change behavior. And giving ourselves a break is so important. Parents, between work, school, their kids of different ages, homework, the summer, the heat, this and that, there's so many things that are wearing on parents right now. And it's not going away tomorrow. I'm sorry. It's not. It's going to be with us a long time, and a long time impact on us. Not just our health, but our mental health is uncertain. And that's what we're here for. So thank you for having me today.
You are so welcome. Now, let me ask you, Dr. Lisa. I've never heard of Parents Anonymous at all. I mean, I've heard of, I guess, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, but I've never heard of Parents Anonymous. And in speaking with many of the parents that have been on the show over the last 3 months during COVID, I haven't heard it mentioned. What are some of the one thing that I've heard people speak about is being at home with their children and not knowing what to do. One of the ladies that we spoke with, her school gave her a packet to print out and her packet was over 90 pages long. She had to take it to like a FedEx and Kinko to print out. And so the schools didn't realize without technology, they needed more for those parents. We spoke to other parents who they didn't even receive a packet. The schools just literally sent them home and said, figure it out, basically, or teach them something. That was the direct quote, teach them something. As long as you're teaching them something, that's fine. But I didn't hear any information about the resources that were available to parents. I haven't heard it mentioned in any of Governor Newsom's speeches in his, why is it that, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but that this isn't wider known?
Okay, well, two things. We're not, there's nothing the matter with the self-help models called Anonymous. In 1969, they just came up with that word because they wanted people to come forward and talk about their demons and their real fears and their real concerns. And so the name just stuck. It's harder to change the name because we're not a profit corporation. We could come up with all kinds of names. So yes, I mean, a lot of people say, I don't know about this. I don't know where to reach out as a parent. Again, we are doing as much as we can, given limited resources as a nonprofit, to do social media, to do outreach to parents. Parents more than ever. If you go on Google and hit helpline, it's going to bring our number up, 1-855-427-2736, or for a parent, and you can even call us. But the question is, what are the steps people take to actually pick up the phone? People are searching on the internet for information, and I agree with you. The schools were hit with this like a ton brick. They were not ready in elementary school to do online learning. Maybe universities were ready, but they were not ready. What do you deal with the third grader who, maybe plays a little game on their phone, but learning over that? And parents were complaining, my kid is in school 6 hours, but they're not getting 6 hour education. What's happening? So I think we have to build a new partnership, because I think the school districts all over the country are still unclear. When are they opening? How are they opening? What's it going to look like? And in California, per se, each school district, we have 3,500 school districts, something like that, will make those decisions. They can't even mandate kids wear masks, though teachers and staff have to wear masks. So there's a whole kinds of issues of people being scared. They can come to our website. There's all kinds of information on caparentyouthhelpline.org, even how to talk about racism to your kid, how to even put on a face covering, and what ages you shouldn't put. I mean, 2 or under, you should not. If your child has asthma, you should not put a face covering on them. Those are the limitations, and you're going to have to make some choices. I agree with you. This thing hit like a ton of bricks. This thing rapidly moved. That's why they called it a pandemic, okay? This is not just like a seasonal little problem, and I think we're all still navigating that. But without the government, and I will make a pitch here for employers who are all worried about, they decide to call you back, Michaela, and they're saying to Michaela, come back to work. And Michaela's got 3 little kids who have nowhere to go in the summer, no summer camp, no school, nothing. How does she make that choice, Michaela? I'm just picking on Michaela. She's on the screen.
Yeah, I don't have kids. It's like, yeah, sure.
Okay. How do you make that choice between making a living and what is your employer doing, but your work is not something you can do at home? Maybe all of us on the screen can do our work at home with kids running around and get something done. A lot of people cannot. So they're making a choice between, am I going to make the groceries, and who's going to watch these kids? And are they old enough to be alone? Can anybody look in on them? And those choices you're saying are very difficult ones. In some ways, between the middle of March, most school districts at the end of the school year lost 2 months. If your kid learned anything in the last 2 months, great. Maybe you just help stabilize your family environment. What is this new routine we have with everybody being home and sheltering in? What does this look like? And then people are trying to plan. It's summer. They're not in summer school. They're not in camp. They're not in daycare. What are they doing? And I think each of these parents need to boil down to be like a segment of your life, not like the next 10 years, because we don't even know what the next 6 months look like. And I think each of those things are real. But I think the employers need to step up. The corporations, the foundations need to start putting money into helping parents. That's the problem. Even when we went to the government of California, it was like, okay, well, we'll do this. It'll be a short-term thing. I'm like, no, this has got long-term impacts. So this has raised the issue of who are parents, Sharif. I think this is one of the issues. Parents have kind of ignored in this country. We blame and shame them when something goes wrong with a kid, right? You're supposed to be perfect. And then when you need support, it's like, oh, well, who are you? What kind of support do you need? I think we need to see everybody needs love and support now. People are talking about kindness, but they're talking about families, but not parents. Parents are in the driver's seat about the families. and they need to feel strong and supported. And when you feel judged and blamed, how every employer should be picking up, writing a check to Parents Anonymous to fund this helpline in California, because you're never going to get your staff, your employees back to work unless you support these people who make up a high percentage just in California, in this country, of 63 million children in America. That's a lot of people.
I agree, Dr. Lisa. I definitely agree. You brought up some interesting points. And I didn't think the word anonymous was a negative. I think that's a positive, because people always feel judged. You know, we feel like, oh, somebody's going to laugh at me. Somebody's going to tell my, spouse. Somebody's going to tell my employer that I need help. And so too often what happens, we don't ask for help. So I love your passion. When I see people who are passionate about what they do and it's not just a job, those are the people that I root for. So I definitely hope everyone who's watching picks up their checkbook and makes a donation to Parents Anonymous. I have more questions for you, but I want to introduce our next guest, Mr. John Cruz. He is a neuroscientist and a psychologist, and we're going to talk about his new book. Good morning, John. How are you?
Morning. I'm delighted to be here.
Are you enjoying the conversation so far?
I am, and I was just thinking about some of the things Narissa had said about needing motivation, and I see that so much in my, being accountable to an external figure, helps us commit to tasks. And then what Dr. Lisa was just saying, talking about being judged as parents, part of what I'm here to talk about is my book, which is called Recognizing Adult ADHD, What Donald Trump Can Teach Us About Attention Deficit Disorder. And part of what was inspired me to write it is that we know that there are millions of Americans completely untreated, undiagnosed ADHD. And month after month, year after year, I was seeing people in their 20s, in their 30s, in their 80s come into my office with clear, robust symptoms of ADHD, and many of them had never had a clue about it. Some of them who had a clue were worried about feeling judged. This is a label, this is a title, what are people going to think about me? So my book has a couple different purposes. One is to try to educate people about ADHD, and there are already lots of really good ADD books out there, ADHD books. So why do we need another one? Again, we need another one because there's lots of people who wouldn't read a self-help book or a mental health book or don't even know about their ADHD. So my book is actually using Donald Trump as an example, because he's someone who's everyone knows what his behavior is like, everyone knows what he's doing. He is in some ways the poster boy for ADHD, but he's not just the poster boy for ADHD, he's the poster boy for ADHD that's right in front of our face, and people are talking about his impulsivity, his disorganization, his not planning for the future, his constant restlessness. And then they're talking about narcissism, or they're talking about, is he a sociopath, or are they psychotic? And no one's addressing the ADHD. So he's the poster boy, not just for adult ADHD, but for undiagnosed, untreated, undiscussed ADHD that's right in front of our face. And then the second piece of my book is actually, so first I used Trump to explain ADHD to people, and then I used ADHD to explain Trump, because if you just think he's a narcissist, narcissists don't do things that are always shooting themselves in the foot and make themselves look bad. A narcissist always wants to look strong and powerful and important and all-knowing. So a lot of what doesn't make sense about him to different people is the ADD element, ADHD element. And if you don't get that, you don't understand where he's coming from. And it sort of jumps into another topic, related topic, which is why I feel ethically and it's appropriate to talk about it. And that is, by quirks of how we define things, our ADHD definition is based entirely on observable behaviors. Something like narcissism, we have to know what's motivating him. We have to know what's inside his head. We have to know why he's doing things. ADHD, I can make fairly clinically, objectively, there's 18 criteria for ADHD. He unequivocally does at least 13 or 14 of them, and probably at least 17 of them. You only need 5 for the full diagnosis. And those are 5 inattentive or hyperactive compulsive symptoms.
Mm.
And then there's
so what you do, John, is tell us about your practice. So people come to you as adults who were never diagnosed with ADHD.
So I've been a psychiatrist in San Francisco for 25 years, and the very first patient that was referred to me was in 94. He was a guy in his 40s. He had been with a well-known psychiatrist for 7 years who had made absolutely no progress with the guy. The guy had had more than 100 jobs in a 20-year period of his life because he couldn't hold on to any position. He was a bright guy, but he would, when he talked, he'd ramble all over the place. He'd get up and walk around the session room. He was always late, even though it was, he liked being in the session. And his previous psychiatrist referred him to the university saying, this looks like ADHD, but could it be? And the university did 6 or 7 days of neuropsychological testing. Again, this is 25 years ago, and said, well, this looks just like ADHD, but that doesn't exist in adults. So when I started my training, the dogma was kids who have ADHD outgrow it, and it doesn't exist in adults. I mean, now we know very clearly, maybe a third of kids outgrow it. A third of kids don't get any better, and the middle third have some improvement, are still showing ADHD symptoms.
I love it. I love when people are on the cutting edge of change and the cutting edge of new information, because we have to continue to research and keep going. So I have more questions for you, but I have to introduce my next guest, Mr. Max Sheets. He is the CEO of Chicken Max. Good morning, Max. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks so much for having me here today. It's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure to listen to all your other guests. I'm pretty humbled to be around all these people. Chicken Max is we're a little 3-unit chicken chain, chicken concept based in Wichita, Kansas. I'm coming to you today from Pierce, South Dakota. So you can see the pretty blue sky behind me and clean air. We've been in business now about 30 months. We were just named number 7 in the emerging brands in the United States. So that's quite an honor. And like everyone else, it's just amazing where we've gone and where we are. I mean, had I handed any of you a newspaper the middle of January and said, hey, here's what the headlines are going to look like July 1st, you all would have looked at me like I had an eye right here and said, you are crazy. What are you smoking? And it's just amazing. Seems like we went from Thanksgiving to Christmas to New Year's to, oh my gosh, I've nicknamed 2020 IDK, because to me that is the answer of the year. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Like Dr. Lisa said, I mean, this is going to be here to stay. It's here for a long time. There's going to be phases of new normal, and so all we can do, I think, is take it a day at a time and take care of others. And that said, we in Wichita, we've had huge layoffs because of we're a big aircraft hub for Boeing with Spirit Aviation and all the people that support them. And there's been over 7,000 people laid off. So we immediately jumped in with community support. And for the hospitality workers, for the Boeing workers, for everyone, we went to a $2 box. And it's 2 smoked chicken legs with a side of Texas toast and southern greens or white beans, and for $2 you've got a nice nutritious meal, basically for less than the cost of a soda. And it's been really cool to watch the community come in and pay it forward. They'll come in and say, hey, give me 10 of these, and they take them to people in need. And so that's how we get through this, as we get through it together. Our little concept is based on elite food, elite service, and I thought that the 2 things in life that bring us together to laugh and joke and be happy are food and music. And so we've got our own playlist that we do that I've created with a dear lifelong friend who was in radio forever named Kathy Carrier, and we've put together these wonderful playlists, and people come through the door, and now that our dining rooms are back open at half capacity. But you look around and people are tapping their foot and moving their body and singing to the music, eating great food. And if we've got 50 people in our restaurant and each of them come in this day with just 4 problems, suddenly you got 200 problems that walk through your doors. Well, what can I do to take those problems away for that 30 or 45 minutes that you spend with us. Great food, great music, and you walk out a little happier and in a little better place mentally than where you came in. And so, we're really trying hard to do everything we can for the community to help people feel better every day. And, you walk into our restaurants now, and masks are just part of the uniform, and they're going to be for a long period of time. But a lot of problems out here in the world today, and let's all just work together to make each other feel better, do better, whether it's through exercise, whether it's through mental health, whether it's through eating great food, listening to some good music. And, with everyone there on the phone, we've got a little healthy niche in our restaurant. We're not just fried chicken, but we also have big smokers in our restaurant. We bring in almond wood from the Central Valley, and 85% of all the almonds in the world are grown there. And so we have great almond wood smoked chicken for a healthy choice. But that's kind of where we are. We've got 3 stores open. We're hoping to open a bunch more in the next few months, next few years. I've been in the industry, gosh, you're kind to say 30 years. It's probably closer to 40 now. But, we just keep going, being nimble, pivoting when we need to pivot, making sure we're all humble and we're hungry and we're smart in our actions with our business and with others. So,
you know what, Max, what I loved about it was a lot about what you said that I loved. I mean, you were just a great guy. I can just tell. But one of the things that I loved the most was that your focus on the community. I've enjoyed meeting so many people who support local businesses. Restaurants have been, we talked about gyms earlier, but restaurants have been affected, more than a lot of other businesses because they have to shut down, and many didn't have a delivery option in place, so they closed down. So it has been hard, but then you see the community rally around these local businesses. I had one lady on the show. She wanted to help a local restaurant, so she ordered food for all the cashiers at the grocery store. So it was helping the cashiers who were essential workers. It was helping the restaurant to get new orders. I've just seen so much of the community come together during this time frame, and I think that's beautiful.
We serve 52 people every Wednesday night through the Mennonite Brethren Church, and the neat thing about it is our young people that are in the restaurants that are preparing the food and delivering it to them. I mean, this may be the best meal they get all week, and it makes our people feel good because they're helping others. And we're paying it forward. And you're so right. I mean, the restaurant industry will never be the same. There's going to be a lot of chains that will never come back. There's already been multitudes declaring bankruptcy. And, when this all hit, we had to make a big decision. And to me, it wasn't a decision. To me, we're going to get some background here.
It's okay.
To me, there wasn't a decision to be made. It was, we're either going to close or we're going to do the right thing. And, one of our company mottos is doing what's right is never wrong. And so what we chose is we're not letting anyone go. We are employing everyone. We're not cutting back. Well, immediately, we didn't furlough anyone. We didn't let anyone go. We didn't close. A lot of people did. And that was kind of the easy choice. And I brought everyone together and I said, look, we're going to start thinking. And as we think, we're going to figure out how we're going to get through this together. And then PPP came along. And it was, we're the poster child for PPP. It kept everyone employed. It kept everyone with a purpose. And then when you start to serve others, which is what we do in the restaurant business anyway, suddenly, everyone it was just a little bit better than the doom and gloom. I mean, I finally had to quit watching the news. I mean, gosh, we're all going to get through this. There's going to be another side. We got to smile. We've got to be kind to each other. We got to realize we're all in it together.
Yes, but you know what? That decision to stay open and to not furlough anyone, you say it and you smile and you're happy, but that could not have been an easy decision. There were so many businesses that couldn't take that stand. So it shows what you're made of during difficult times. So I definitely applaud you. I have more questions for you, but I want to introduce our next guest, Michaela Zannou. She's been so patiently waiting with us. Good morning, Michaela. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you for joining us. Now, you're in a whole different field. You're an actor, you're in film and television, But I wanted to bring you in, especially when we start talking about industries that have been affected by the quarantine the most. I mean, because I have a friend of mine who's a talent agent in Hollywood, and she was telling me, she said, Sharifa, I'm at the point where I just want to go and live in the woods and, get all her cans and just kind of live off the land. And I was like, well, what are you going to do? You're a talent agent. How are you going to represent anyone in the woods? She was like, Sharifa, there's no production. There's nobody to represent. So I was like, oh, okay. So for the last few months, but it's starting to reopen. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Michaela, and what you do.
Well, I'm originally from Greece, and I moved from Greece to New York about 6 years ago. I got my MFA in acting in Greece, and I also got a business degree in Greece. And then I moved to New York to focus mostly on camera work. I did a lot of theater in Greece while I was in drama school, and then I really love on camera, and that's not something you can do a lot in Greece. So I moved to New York, and along with acting, I soon discovered my love for filmmaking and for screenwriting. So I recently wrote, produced, and starred in in a pilot episode called Couples Therapy, which has been going really well in the festival circuit. We were an official selection at SeriesFest. And we got to screen alongside episodes with Apple and Stars and AMC. And yeah, right. So right now we have been able to take a few great steps with festivals like SeriesFest that are going virtual, but at the same time, the industry is in pause. And like you said, the acting and the entertainment industry has been hit hard. I'm not so much of a stage actor here in New York, but my heart aches for the Broadway community and the off-Broadway community, because it looks like theaters are not going to open till spring of 2021. And that's just heartbreaking, because we're talking about so many actors and so many dancers, singers, and people behind the scenes, like the people that make the costumes, the people that do the lights, the musicians. On camera has been a little bit like, I'm a little bit more optimistic about on camera work. They have officially allowed production to begin with certain restrictions, which again is very limiting. So I feel like the major productions will wait till 2021 to produce again. But independent work and smaller crews and smaller projects can definitely keep going. But yeah, it's definitely been a big, hit. And also I used to have a day job, a survival job. I used to work at restaurants, which have also taken a hit. And right now in New York City, we're only allowed outdoor dining, which, like, if restaurants had like 15 servers before, right now they can only have 3. So where are all these people, the actors and the restaurant workers, where are they gonna, like, there's just not enough jobs for everyone to, even in other fields, to absorb them.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. Did you see a wave of creativity during this process? I saw so many people within the entertainment industry found that this was a good time to write that next script or start on that next project that may be produced in 2021.
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of friends who have produced short films or a little web series with a skeleton crew or just with their phones. I've seen, like, I think that Netflix just released this, I think it's more like a documentary / some people were creative with it. That's content that was created during quarantine. And I myself have been developing new projects and writing and promoting couples therapy and strategizing and planning. But that being said, the first month was really hard for me, because I was just taking in all the pain and the suffering and the uncertainty that was happening around me. And I also got COVID, so I just needed, yes, I got COVID. Thank God. I had very mild symptoms. I had like 3 days of fever, some fatigue, and that was it. I only realized I had COVID because I lost my smell and taste for 2 weeks. But that was definitely, a big milestone
Well,
then.
thank God you're okay. You're here with
Yes,
us
yeah, I
today.
know. You
I
read
haven't
all
spoken with anyone who's actually had COVID. I had a few guests who've known people or been, their relatives have been affected, but not actually have it themselves. So
Yeah,
praise God, you're
and
okay.
I feel very lucky because I read all these stories about people who, like me, were perfectly healthy before, but it hit them really hard. And some of them like are suffering like for 3 months, the symptoms keep on going. That's definitely a small percentage, but it's there. So it's really, frightening to think that this virus could have like very mild symptoms, or it can kick you to the curb, or it could, like, knock on wood, kill you. So and even if you don't have pre-existing conditions, it's just like this mystery that's surrounding us, and that definitely affects creativity and your mental health. And um like I feel like a lot of people feel pressure to create and to make the best of all the free time that we have, but at the same time we need to be really kind with ourselves and understanding, because this is not a vacation. Like it's mass trauma what is happening around us right now, and people will respond to it differently.
Yes, yes. So tell us about couples therapy.
So couples therapy is a dramedy series about a couples therapist who treats neurotic couples while her own marriage is falling apart. And for the life of her, she can't follow her own advice and save her own marriage. So it's a commentary on modern relationships and modern couples, and deals with issues that couples in the past didn't have, or gives a voice to different kinds of couples, like homosexual couples, trans couples, triads, open relationships. And at the same time, it sheds a light on the modern woman who is strong and assertive and accomplished, but at the same time, she's entitled to be a mess sometimes and make mistakes and go against her better judgment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so is it available, or is it just in the
It's it's in development. So
okay.
we created a pilot, which is what we would call a proof of concept. So you show that to festivals and
Okay,
to
so it's being
meetings.
shown to the festivals.
Yes, and
Okay.
then so just so that people get an idea what the series will be, and then hopefully you'll find the right home for it, and there will be this network or this production company that's like, oh, I like that concept, let's make a season out of it. I'll finance it.
Oh, wow. I love it. I love it. I'll come back to you, Dr. Lisa. These are the industries. We've had the restaurant industry, we've had the gyms, we've had so many different industries, the entertainment industry that has been affected. And these, I'm sure, plenty of parents who don't know what to do. But what is usually the typical reason why people pick up the phone and reach out to you?
They're frightened. And basic fear and basic anxiety and sadness. They feel like, okay, they're at home, they love their children, we'll start school, we'll have this routine, we'll do this and that. And just like Michaela was saying, people are so hard on themselves, I mean, I've interviewed some kids that said, mom and dad should realize, like, we get recess, like let's have a break. It's not like real school. And at the same time, they feel like the phone doesn't stop from their work, or they have the pressures of the economics that they've lost their job. They may not be eligible for unemployment and other kinds of benefits, and it's just not enough money. People are making the choice between rice and diapers. They're making the choices between cable. Everybody thinks everybody has the internet. In this country, it's not free. And if you are low income, you do not have access. And if you have young children, you don't have a tablet, or your school district didn't have enough to give them out. So you might have a tablet. I'll tell you the story about this young boy in San Bernardino County. He went down to the local restaurant before the total shut-in happened and said, can I sit outside and use your Wi-Fi? And the restaurant owner said, what's the matter? And he said, well, we don't have Wi-Fi at home. And I need to do my homework. And I've got to get my homework done. It's like 12 years old. Mother let him go down the street, whatever. The restaurant owner was so impressed. He said, of course you can have Wi-Fi. He says, you got a job for life when you get out of high school. Because I've never seen some kid come to me every day saying, I want to do my homework. So that motivation is really important to celebrate. What I've also seen is resiliency. It's almost like what you were saying, Max. We always feel good when we give back. If we sit in isolation at home and don't pick up the phone and call anybody, Dr. Cross is going to tell you, people are going to get even more depressed, okay? This social isolation that we're experiencing, and just what you were saying, Nerissa, that we have to find new ways of using technology, not see it as a barrier, but how do we break down those boundaries? And people that said, oh, I didn't even call my friends, they're calling people they haven't talked to in years to stay connected. We have an expression in Parents Anonymous, and it's clinically researched, which is what you were talking about, Max, in the giving you get. So when you reach out to another person by picking up the phone, when you help somebody in another way, a neighbor, hey, I'm going to the store, you're waving to them to get them some toilet paper and throw them the toilet paper through your car door window. Those things, even the simplest gestures, first and foremost, make us feel good. Secondarily, you're helping another person. You're getting a double benefit from that. And we can't forget about even the smile, even the laugh, even waving at your neighbor. These things, Krauss is an expert on neurology, changes the shape of our brain, sets off neurotransmitters. All this is free. You don't need a college degree. You don't need to go to a specialist. We need to practice it. So when Michaela was saying about kindness, it's like reaching out to other people makes us feel good as a human being. And that, as a parent, parents are first human beings. We forget about that. Oh no, they got to be the perfect this, the perfect, room monitor, the person mathematician now. No, understand it. You have a high schooler, you have a middle schooler, you have a preschooler, and you're running and you're trying to do your job, and you're doing all this 24/7. And that people need to give each other a break. And whether it's the employers plus our entire community say, what are we going to do to support people and give them a break?
Yes, Nerissa? I was going to ask, I thought you were about to say something. If not, I was going to go over to John.
No,
and I want to hear
they should pay for their mental health and their physical health. When I used to work under the Twitter building, Twitter and Uber would pay for their gym memberships. I think it's important to allocate funds for them to be with a trainer. It's, preventative healthcare is much cheaper than getting sick, right? Employers want healthy employees, and they also should pay for their mental health, especially now. Now that, especially tech companies who are known for paying for beer and all this food and all this gluttony, why not redirect those funds that you no longer need to helping your employees be better mentally and physically so that they can come back stronger and be more productive? So yeah, I want to call them out and be like, you have the money, personal training is not that expensive. If you can have beer and all this food and cupcakes and parties and pool tables, you can pay for mental health and physical health for your employees.
And I'm going to bank on that. They can pay for a helpline, because the whole idea, and you all talk about that people pick up the phone. It's not like picking up the phone and calling your mom. If you've got a mom, a sister, a friend, reach out to them. Don't. But people feel very judged. Let's get real here. Why is your kid acting? What are you doing? And what happened? And why did you lose that relationship? And why didn't your employer still like you? And everybody feels like, oh my God, I'm being come at by all these people. When you call the helpline, you're talking to, you're building a relationship. It's not a long-term relationship that people call us back. But people say the first thing is like, is that really a human on the phone? I mean, people are shocked that we're there.
But people like this relationship, right? That's why AI can't replace the shared human experience, right? They're trying to replace trainers and therapists, right? But you can't do it. AI therapists have never been assaulted. They don't know how to connect, right? So it's important that especially during COVID and during this pandemic, it's really important we have that human connection some way.
We have the human connection as well. I agree with you, Nerissa, but also because you're seeing a shift in more people working from home. Those same people who would have gotten up, gotten in the car, drove to work, walked up the elevator, walked to their desk, walked to, for lunch. These are the same people who don't go more than 5 feet in any direction.
Right. And they're eating more because, when you're at home, you're inclined to snack a little bit more. You're sitting all day, right? So, yeah.
And then parents are getting even more guilty because they're giving the quick fix, box of frozen, oh, just go get that, frozen chicken nuggets or whatever, and maybe it's not the healthiest thing, or something. They're just saying, I'm ordering out stuff and there's all these chemicals and things. That's normally not how I eat. Now, and when you don't eat well and you don't exercise, you don't feel well. So, I mean, mind-body connection, I mean, we can't say enough about it, right? We all know that. If you don't sleep enough because you're worried all the time, then you're not going to parent. You're going to end up yelling more. You're going to end up not paying attention. We always talk about in Parents Anonymous, nurture yourself before you can even parent your children. Why does the pilot say put the mask on yourself before you help somebody next to you? Is because he or she are telling you, you may end up dead if you don't put the mask on first. I mean, it is that severe, though he doesn't use the word, he or she everybody knows, oh, why would I put it on first? Because the time it takes to lose oxygen to help another, you may not survive it or get brain injury. So it's not with the messages, but the message, everybody's always saying, take care of yourself, take care of yourself.
Right.
How do you do that when, you've lost your job, you have a bunch of children, you're in a distant relationship with somebody else who has other children, you have elderly parents, grandparents can't come over and hug your grandchildren. I mean, there's all these family relationships, and family people define it more than blood, that are your community, your La Familia, that you cannot interact with. And when you do, when people went to church with 40 people in Northern California, what happened? Half of them got COVID, and on and on and on. The spread of this virus, and I'm very sorry, Michaela, that you got it. I'm glad you survived it. And people say young people don't get it. Well, that's not what the data says. In California, the 18 to 40-year-old group is rising more than any other group. I don't know.
They won't stay in the house. That's my philosophy. They will not stay in the house. But Max, I wanted to ask you, one of the things that we were talking about is just being positive and that warm community feeling of helping each other. When you made the decision to remain open, did you do anything additional to help boost morale or keep the morale up or keep people, coming to work? Because I'm pretty sure they had their own fears as well.
Absolutely. We over communicated. And we stayed in touch more often, because we've got so many forms of communication today, whether it's texting or the phone, or we socially distanced, but we made sure that everyone was cared for and that everyone was in good shape, and we talked about it. It's just like the first way that we're all going to get through this and get healthy is what we're doing on this call, is communicating. And bottom line is, in this country, COVID is running rampant, and there was so much misinformation out there. Viruses don't see ages. Viruses don't see borders. Viruses are looking for a place to live. And we've got to be careful, because this is a highly contagious one. But, we just have to help each other, and we have to over communicate and be safe. We just need to be safe and be smart. And bottom line is, as bad as COVID is, back to Dr. Lisa, the biggest not even misdiagnosis, but the biggest thing this country misses is mental health and mental well-being. We don't take good enough care of our people that need it, and we don't take good enough care of understanding the issues of mental health out there today. Because mental well-being comes from all those things that we've been talking about: eating right, physical fitness, being active, being socially together. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of people that are missing that social interaction that keeps our synapses firing, because we're thinking and we're communicating, and and it's not easy. And if you believe that history repeats itself, and I happen to believe that it does, if we go back 50 years, go back to 1969, 1970, what went on in those years? And we had horrible civil unrest because of the Vietnam War. Certain cities, Detroit comes to mind, have never been the same. We had the Hong Kong flu that everyone has forgotten about, killed over 100,000 people. And then we had that great achievement as well. We went to the moon. Probably the biggest human achievement in our history. We went to the moon, and we brought 3 guys home. And we had 600 million people tuned in, rooting for 3 guys to come home safe. And the world was together for a positive endeavor. And that's what we've got to find again, is this positive endeavor that brings us together. And we've got to get past this divisiveness. And what little I can do with food and music, being positive, communicating that vision, man, let's try to find it. Let's find those influential figures You know, like John Kennedy said, we're not doing this because it's easy. We're doing it because it's hard. But we're going to work together and we're going to get there. Let's find that again somehow.
Yeah.
And let's start by communicating.
Max, you're about to make me cry. I'm getting emotional over here listening to you, especially after the 4th of July holiday. I think that was so beautiful. Now, we are coming down to the last few minutes of the show. And what I love to do at the end of every show is just simply allow my guests the opportunity to speak directly to the audience and let them know what you like for them to take away from your appearance. And we're going to go ahead and start with you, John.
So people have been talking about communication, about understanding, about mental health. And what I'd say is why we make diagnoses in mental health is why we make them in the rest of medicine. We make them to understand things. We make them so we can predict what's going to happen if we don't treat it. And we do it so we can find appropriate treatments for what's going on. So again, my book is about helping more people understand ADHD because, again, millions of adults have it. It's affecting their lives. And as President Trump shows us, his ADHD is affecting all of us. Some of his lack of planning, some of his lack of follow-through, some of his inability to focus, his inability to not blurt out what's ever on the top of his mind has led to more divisiveness, more deaths from COVID than were necessary. And that's not as a blaming, it's to understand where this is coming from so that if we understand it, then we can take appropriate measures to address it and help it.
So what do adults with ADHD who are just now being diagnosed, what is the recommendation?
I mean, the recommendation, so my book I see is sort of like a public service announcement where we, like we teach people how to know the signs of having a stroke. This is so you can be more aware of it because you're not going to treat it on yourself. It's going to need probably the help of mental health professionals. So my message is, again, not to be diagnosing all your friends and everyone out there, but if you have a really high suspicion after having read my book, then the message is, this looks like a pattern I've heard someone talk about. There are professionals who may be able to help you. I mean, there may be self-help books too that can lead you part of the way. And it's not that everyone has to be on medications. There are often other approaches and strategies, but it's recognize what's going on and then get help for it. Because I've seen people, I had a CEO last month who's in his 40s, he started his 3rd company, clearly bright individual, but they've all blown up. And he thought, I thought I was an asshole. Sorry to use the word, but that's how he saw himself for exploding. And then when he learned that this pattern was due to ADHD, he's been able to turn things around and fix what didn't go well in his other work relationships and his private life through just the awareness that he had these tendencies to explode, to not follow through on other things, to be inattentive when people were really trying to convey important messages to him.
See, that's the information, that's the knowledge that we needed. Definitely want to check out your book, Recognizing Adult ADHD. And where is it available?
It's available on Amazon. It's available on Barnes & Noble. It's available as an audiobook as well as a Kindle. And
Good.
Fantastic. Thank you. Want to go over to Michaela?
Yes. Well, for me, what's the most important thing right now is self-love. I feel that a lot of people in our time are struggling with loving themselves and not being too hard on themselves and being kind to themselves. And it's not random that I wrote a series about a therapist, a couple therapist, but a therapist, because I really believe in therapy. I believe in the importance of mental health and of getting to know yourself and accepting yourself for who you are and trying to fix what doesn't work for you and accept what you cannot fix in yourself. And I just think that, like Lisa said, that whole oxygen mask is an example that I mentioned so many times to friends or interviews, that you need to take care of yourself first before taking care of others. That self-care is not selfish. It's actually the opposite of selfish, because when you are well inside of you, when you have found inner peace, you are just going to be a much more loving, compassionate, and functional person. So yes, if that would be a takeaway, that's my little 2 cents. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love the positivity. Nerissa, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's a common thing right now, right? Self-care, it's just really important. It's what my business is designed to do, right? It's a reminder that we all need it. We all need someone to help us be better. If we could do it by ourselves, we'd all be there, right? We'd all, be perfect, right? You pay for services for a reason. You pay for a business coach so you can be better at business. You pay for a doctor so your health can be better. You pay for a psychiatrist so your mental health can be better. And same thing why you pay for a trainer, so that your physical health, which is still connected to your mental health, can be better. People who have clinical depression do better when they're active, So it's one of those things where this is a time where we all just need to talk and figure out ways we can be supportive of one another, because we're in this together. We can't separate ourselves. This is the worst time to ignore the fact that, as humans, we're still a tribe. We're here on this planet together, and we need to figure out how we're going to navigate it together. And so that we can be better versions for ourselves, for our children, and for the future generations.
I love it. And where can we get Bright app?
Oh, you can download it iOS or the Google Play Store. It's free access. You just pay for the trainer's time. You pay them directly. We have trainers with different variety of skills, from strength training, weightlifting, to a woman who trains moms of all phases of their lives, women. So, yeah.
Okay, and what area? Is national or?
So we are national. Our marketplace is still only a few weeks old. So we currently have 12 trainers that are active that you can contact. Some live in Florida, Virginia, New York, a lot of New York, and then California as well.
Okay, anybody in Long Beach? Look, I'm having you do the work for me.
Yeah, we have someone in Marietta, which is pretty close, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
2 hours, not too far.
The best thing, again, it's just like you could do it over Zoom. Even if you have a small room, these trainers are skilled to get you up and moving and feeling better no matter how big your space is. You have a tiny apartment, tiny bedroom, your bathroom.
Let's not forget Zoom. Thank you.
Zoom.
Max, what do you have for us?
Well, first, I want to thank you all of you on this. I appreciate it. And it's been great to listen to everyone. And we need more of this, but change is constant, and that's just going to be the way it is. Change is constant. It's just happening faster now than it's ever happened. I just, kind of want to close by saying, the wisdom is in the group, and through this wisdom, through this communication, we can move forward. So remember, the wisdom is in the group. Lend a hand to everyone, reach out, share a smile, be nice. And the biggest thing with our company and in our lives is that doing what's right is never wrong. And let's just always try to do what's right. And so again, God bless all of you, and thank you for all you're doing to keep us moving forward. It's greatly appreciated.
Oh, that was so beautiful. Thank you, Max. And Dr. Lisa, you want to go ahead and take us out?
I think a theme everybody said, I appreciate what all of you are doing, and what you're saying is what we say is asking for help is a sign of strength. And it is something we need to say over and over again to ourselves, to our friends, to our families, to our kids, and to whether or not you hand the phone to them and call 1-855-427-2736 or go to the website. We are here for you, no matter what you're struggling with. If your kid is driving you crazy, hand them the phone. We talk to youth and children too. And parents have done that in the car. I've had enough. This mom pulled over. She said, I'm pulling over so I can give you the phone safely in the back of the seat while we're driving somewhere. And then when we get somewhere, you can have your privacy and have your phone call. And I think that reaching out is so important, and that we need to celebrate that every day for our well-being, which is our health, our mental health, and our whole community existence. And I appreciate everybody and for you for organizing this and giving a platform to have this conversation, because we need to continue all kinds of conversations. Just the smallest gesture, we know, make people feel good when they do it, and make the other person feel good that they're valued. Double benefits for all of us that we can multiply and over all these platforms. It doesn't have to be in person. It doesn't have to be in person. So pick up the phone, call us today. We're here to help and provide emotional support. Thank you.
You are so welcome. I want to thank all of you for being my guests on today's episode of the Roundtable Talk Show. I also want to thank all of our viewers for watching the show. We definitely appreciate your support, but don't just watch the show. Share the show, and also go to the websites. I've added all the information and all of the links in the box for you. Check out our guests, follow them on social media, and when you send them a message, please be sure to let them know Sharifa Hardy says hi. And if you are interested in being a guest, please visit the website at asksharifa.com. Until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, everyone have a safe and a blessed day. Bye now.